May the 20th, trees. May sees more trees coming into flower, others coming into leaf, and some even fruiting or dropping their seeds. Lime trees all over London start the month losing their bud scales, but by the end of the month they will have flowered and we will even see their fruits. Under many trees, sufficient coloured bud scales will fall to form temporary pools of colour. Some birds even incorporate these delicate scales into their nests. In beech woods, such as Burnham beeches, the trees drop russet-coloured scales from their long pointed buds. Then they may drop some protected leaves and finally the spent flowers. The leaves, when they first unfurl, are a bright translucent green with silky hairs. Most of these hairs will be lost as the leaves gradually get darker and greener. The new growth on many evergreen trees, such as holm oak, is now distinctly paler than the old leaves. Spruces stand out for the same reason. Scots pine, hues, and giant redwoods are all now shedding copious amounts of pollen. When a branch is tapped, a shower of pollen can often be the surprising result. Clouds of pollen may even be seen drifting from conifer plantations. In the case of Scots pine, the pollen grains each have 2 minute balloons to help them on their journey. By the end of the month, most trees will have shed their pollen. Others, such as cherries, smoke trees, sumacs, and maple cultivars, are producing a range of red and bronze leaves, which will later turn to green. The so-called purple trees, for example, Fagus sylvatica purpurea, Prunus cericifera passadi, and the various dark forms of maple, are all now showing their best leaf colour. Later, the intensity of purple will fade. The most noticed seeds this month are those of willows, aspens, and poplars, which produce the slow-moving clouds of cotton seeds we sometimes see on warm, windless days. Elms and some maples are also covered in seeds, often brightly coloured in the case of Japanese maples. Different willows are still producing new catkins, although most are now seen spent in large numbers under trees. Hornbeams and hazels produce catkins before their leaves, whereas birch, beech, and oak produce them at the same time. Ash trees have often been singled out for their beauty in May. Their fresh green leaves are translucent and almost lime green and very late to unfurl. The tree is called the Venus of the woods, and her assistant Cupid made his darts from its wood. In one mythology, man was created from a piece of ash. Pliny believed an adder would rather go through fire than pass over an ash twig. And in Scotland, the sap was collected and fed to babies to expel demons. The wood will burn in the green and is said to smell of violets. It is a brave field naturalist that attempts to identify an elm, as they are justly regarded as the most difficult trees to identify in Europe. The reason for this is their natural promiscuity, readiness to hybridize, and above all, their propensity to form long-lived, often isolated clones. As a group, they have largely given up reproducing by seed in favor of suckering. Suckers from even a hedgerow elm can go on over time to form quite large populations of genetically identical elms. However, every now and again, a seedling is produced which naturally is slightly different from both its parents. This can then go on to sucker and form a brand new, slightly different clone. In places such as Buffwood in Cambridgeshire, this process has continued, resulting in 29 different clones being identified in the wood, making it a mecca for elm enthusiasts. When attempting to identify an elm, it is important to examine mature, fully open foliage. Then you need to note the size and shape of the leaves, whether or not they're rough or smooth, how long the leaf stalk is, and how prominent is the leaf tip. Other useful characters could include the shape of the tree, the size of any basal lobes on its leaves, and to what degree the leaves are serrated, and the presence or absence of any rusty-coloured hairs. Fortunately, there are just 2 very common elms in London, the wych elm, Ulmus glabra, and the English elm, Ulmus procera. The wych elm, a mature specimen of which can be found in Battersea Park, has large broad leaves over 7 centimetres in length, which are rough to the touch, have a long point and virtually no leaf stalk. It rarely suckers. In comparison, the English elm suckers freely. It has smaller, darker leaves that are less than 7 centimetres in length and much more circular in outline. This is the elm that suffered most with Dutch elm disease, so most are now dead, and we just see the suckers that have survived, usually covered in a corky growth. Other than these 2 native elms, you occasionally come across 2 other rarer elms that have usually been planted. These are the smooth-leaved elm, Ulmus carpinifolia, and the Dutch elm, Ulmus hollandica. Like many elms, the smooth-leaved elm is highly variable, but its smaller leaves, less than 7 centimeters, which are longer, thinner and smoother than other elms, can often help to mark it out. Dutch elms are hybrids between wych elms and smooth-leaved elms and come in many different forms. Their characteristics, like many hybrids, are often intermediate between their two parents. They may have large leaves like a wych elm, but not particularly rough to touch like a smooth-leaved elm. There are a number of different types. For instance, the Huntingdon elm, Ulmus hollandica vegeta, is a clone typically found in the Huntingdon area and well known for its broad fan-shaped crown. A good specimen can be found in the meadow area of Battersea Park. This tree has become much more widely planted due to its greater resistance to Dutch elm disease. Two other forms are the bright yellow Ulmus hollandica Dampieria aurea, which can be found near the Lido in Hyde Park, and a weeping form, Ulmus hollandica Wentworthii pendula, which can be found in the South Park Gardens in Wimbledon. Two other elms worth seeking out are the Cornish elm, Ulmus stricta, and the Camperdown elm, Ulmus glabra camperdowni. The Cornish elm is best identified as a mature tree, which is vase-shaped, with steeply ascending branches reaching up to a narrow crown. It can be found in Regent's Park. The Camperdown elm is a weeping sport of a wych elm, first discovered in a forest near Dundee. A handsome specimen of this can be found by the river in Battersea Park, which is thought to have avoided the high-flying beetle, Scolitus scolitus, responsible for Dutch elm disease on account of its small size. Over the centuries, elm timber has had many uses. It was used to feed livestock and bed them down. Cowsheds were then made of it as it resisted constant kicking from livestock. Later it was used to make water pipes, hedges, and the central hub of cartwheels. It was also a preferred wood for coffins, and any switches made of it were thought to confer good luck on the riders.